Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Get Into It with Gila. I'm Gila Glassberg, your host, registered dietitian and intuitive eating counselor. And today I have Dr. Marcy Forta. Hello, how are you?
Hi, Gila. How are you? Thank you so much for inviting me on today.
Sure, I'm so happy to have you on. So could you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself? Where do you live? What do you do?
Sure. My name is Marcy Forta. I actually live in Michigan. I work in eating disorder awareness, education, and prevention. I provide a lot of support for families of, families that are affected by eating disorders. Their children might have an eating disorder. I do a lot of speaking on body image. And I am the founder and director of OTSME, which is an organization that was founded to support the mental health from adolescent girls via our My Best Self project, which is a curriculum that we've created that is in 3 grades, and it helps us cultivate self-compassion, kind of reduce the focus on outward appearance, and improve our body image. The focus really is to help the girls to find and develop their unique selves, but also to head off eating disorders.
Wow, that is so amazing. I'm so happy to hear that you're doing that.
Thank you.
So could you tell us how that started, like how you started doing that work and specifically how you started ATSME?
Okay, sure. So I actually ran a women and girls clothing store here in Michigan for about 15
Mm,
years.
wow.
And what I noticed, my background is really in business, and I loved it. What I noticed a lot of the time was a lot of struggle with their body image. Young girls changing bodies to young women becoming mothers, mothers growing older. There was a lot of discomfort and struggle. What do I wear? What looks good on me? I don't feel good in my body. And it really affected me. It bothered me that everyone seemed to be struggling with the same thing.
Mm,
So I sold the store for personal reasons, and I just kept thinking to myself, like, this is really weighing on me as somebody who personally struggled with a lot of body image issues and an eating disorder when I was a teen. It really affected me very profoundly. So I thought, what can we do to make a change? Because eating disorders, we know, are so devastating, and they're very difficult disorders, and can be long term, and they can be hard to treat, and there are so many complications with them. So I decided to take a different route. I really wanted to work in prevention of eating disorders. So I went back to school, and I got my doctorate in education
wow.
specifically so that I could create these programs that would be empirically based, but also based on Torah and Hashkafa. So when I went back to school, and my dissertation was really on eating disorder risk factors from Orthodox adolescent female community. So it was very specific. What I wanted to do was create these prevention programs. So I trained in whatever prevention programs are out there, the secular programs. And then what I realized is they weren't created with the frum girl in mind. And
Hmm.
prevention, the research shows that prevention is tailored to the specific cultural and environmental and religious considerations of the group is much more effective. But also, we have Torah, we have all those things that we need. We have beautiful, lessons in Hashkafa. So I took those things and the empirical ways that we head off eating disorders, and I created these programs. Eating disorders don't occur in a vacuum. So most people, I would say 95+% of people with an eating disorder also have some type of co-occurring condition, whether that's anxiety, depression, OCD, post-traumatic stress disorder, something that goes along with it. So what we've created is a program that helps not just specifically for eating disorders, it helps emotion regulation, it helps the girls understand the tenets of self-compassion, things that are in my control, out of my control, what self-care is versus being selfish,
Mm.
boundaries, priorities, healthy relationships. So we try to give them a lot, and empirically head off eating disorders.
Wow. Wow. That's like, I mean, that's so amazing to hear, just as somebody who, is a dietitian and works through the intuitive eating principles. Like I always say that intuitive eating is not meant to treat an eating disorder. It's really meant for more like disordered eating. So then it's like, how do we prevent eating disorders when, like you said, they're so complicated, so hard to treat, and there's so many other things going on.
Mm-hmm.
So just like what you said right off the bat was like, practicing, learning what self-compassion is and learning how to regulate your emotions. Like those are so many things that come up with an eating disorder or even disordered eating, that there's like that harsh tone of diet culture, like that like all or nothing thinking that it has to be this way, that we have to look this way. And it's like combating that with just not just prevention, but a lot of prevention, which is like exactly targeting those things that affect people with eating disorders, is like so important, like so amazing.
Yeah, and there are just those components that kind of predispose us, right? And we just have a lot of unique risk factors kind of in our culture. And so supporting emotions, which is a big part of it, really makes a big difference in the prevention. But of course,
Mhm.
talking about appearance ideals and body image and diet culture, these are also important conversations for the
For
girls to
sure.
have as well.
Yeah, I want to go back to like the beginning of what you said about how you started a clothing store. So first of all, that's such an interesting, unique perspective, because I've heard this from so many clients about like myself included, like how a lot of their disordered eating thoughts started from a clothing store, whether it was like, walking into a clothing store and being like, oh, we don't have a size for you, or like, them making a comment, if you would lose weight, this would fit you better, or try the bigger size, the smaller size. And I hear it from clients all the time. They walk into a store, they're ignored, or, they don't cater to their size. It's just like, it could be it's such a big part of what I counsel on, which is just like clothing. So did you start the clothing store because you said you had a business background, or because you specifically were interested in clothing, or did it have anything to do with your own eating disorder journey?
Interesting. I always loved fashion. So for me, it was kind of something that I would have always loved to do. I love, sometimes I'll take some people shopping and help them put outfits together, and clothing. It's something that I always enjoyed as an aside. And it was because of my business background. I always really wanted to start my own business. And my kids were getting a little bit older, and it was, time for me to try something outside the home. So that really was what piqued my interest. But unfortunately, like you said, I do hear a lot of stories of people, store owners, who really are just not very kind to their customers, and they do make the process extremely stressful. For me, I had a lot of mothers sometimes who would come in even before their daughters came in, and they would explain that their daughter's struggling with this or this, and if to start already with a size that's their correct size, and to maybe make some suggestions for them that will be good. And I suggest that to mothers even now as well.
Hmm.
If your child is a little bit larger and it's a little bit harder to fit them, so don't take them to a store that they're not going to have clothes for them. And
Right.
maybe go to the store beforehand and talk to the store owner or somebody who works there, and put aside a few things that they can recommend for your child if your child doesn't take the recommendations well from you.
Hmm.
I do think store owners can be, or maybe it's just the people who work there, I don't really know, but I have heard some scary stories about things like that. It should be a
Right.
beautiful, wonderful
Yeah.
experience. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? You feel good when
Yeah.
you walk out of the store. You found something that you like and makes you feel good about yourself. So
Yeah. Yeah. I will just say on the positive note that last year when I was pregnant with my son, like I went to one of the stores in Brooklyn, and the lady was really, really helpful. And that was like so nice to leave the store with like somebody who's just helping you and not saying anything about your size or your weight. It doesn't really matter. This is your size and this is your weight, and I'll try to get you clothes that fit your body,
100%. I
as it
love it.
should be, as it should be. So it's
As it should.
interesting though, you transitioned so drastically though, from like going from, like starting a clothing store, having nothing to do with like related to eating disorders. Like I could see that as a cool business model, like somebody who specifically
Yeah.
like catering to people's body sizes. On that note, I will just say one more thing. Sorry that I keep going on this tangent, but I always quote from the book Anti-Diet from Christy Harrison that because we have so much mass produced clothes now, that everything is like mass produced, and like there's sizes, even though the sizes are not like regulated, like every store could have different sizes. It used to be that people did have custom clothes. They weren't like a size 10 or a size 6 or a size 20. They just got clothes that fit their body. So now that we have this system of sizing, then we have also like negative sizes and positive sizes. But if it could only be that, we were fitting, you have this body shape and this whatever, you would just get clothes that fit your body, wouldn't be such a big deal.
Yeah. And I really would like to comment that what I did notice is, first of all, a lot of the from clothing manufacturers really do make their clothing sizes smaller than regular manufacturers. So women who came in and were just a regular normal size, were feeling like they had to buy large, extra large, extra large in order just to get it to fit them properly.
Hmm.
I That really made people feel badly about themselves, and a lot of women and girls, if they couldn't fit into the small or extra small, they wouldn't buy it because it didn't matter how it looked on them. If it wasn't the size that they could feel comfortable wearing, they
Hmm.
couldn't buy that piece of clothing. And that really, it just broke my heart, because it's not that I can't relate to it or that I never had that, but it's just seeing it so open was really hard to watch, especially for young girls who were beautiful. They were just beautiful young girls coming in to get dressed. And if they couldn't, get that extra small, they weren't going to buy it.
Yeah, and I actually just recently like have been hearing this from like teens or clients or people and their kids and whatever, like that they only want to wear like the smaller extra small. And it's like such an interesting thing. I've been doing this work for a long time, but it's just like, why does the size matter? Like if it fits you, it fits you. But it does, like, for whatever reason, like in our society, it's like if you're, not a size small or extra small, like you don't matter. Or like, yes, 100%. I'm not trying to bash the from stores. I am just trying to, I wish there was a little bit more light on this, like shedding some light on it, that it's like, it has nothing to do with really like anything. It's just that like different stores have different sizes and they're not really regulated, so they could do whatever they want. I'm not sure why the from stores cater to only smaller people. It doesn't really make sense. People like from people come in all shapes and sizes as well,
And you would think that they would want them to feel comfortable in the clothing, so it should be a little more accurate is all. But
Yeah.
I've really been out of the business now for probably about 8 or 9 years, so things could have changed
Yeah.
drastically.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I at that time, that's what I was seeing.
Mhm.
The trends could be different, but I never really understood it because people are so different shapes and size wise. And it doesn't matter your size. Your top part of your body might be a different size than the bottom part of your body.
Right.
Like, we're very
Right.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There are definitely stores now like Impact Fashion or D-Rama, or there's other stores that are catering to plus size or whatever you want to call it. But that's really good to see. But yeah, there are also like Shein and Amazon that also sell really nice stuff that are cheaper
Yeah.
and easier to access. So I understand, like, I just wish there was a little bit more access in the film world.
Yeah. But there are some designers now, I think, in the film world that
Yes, yes.
dresses for all sizes. And I love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Okay, so then you sold your store and then you decided to go, like, did you have it, like, what was your degree and how did you totally switch?
I have an MBA. That was my degree.
Mhm.
So I love business. I love starting businesses. And that was really exciting to me. The thought of going back to school was not something that I had ever honestly considered. I first started to think about how I wanted to get involved. And I actually started to kind of write a book about my own struggle with my eating disorder. And what I kind of realized is that along the road, as we grow up and as we become parents and as our life changes, our perceptions of kind of what happened in our life changes. And so where I was in my life writing this book, my feelings about what happened when I was a teen and my feelings about what happened as an adult were not in sync anymore,
Mhm.
um, and how I experienced it. And I kind of felt, how did I want to progress here? Did I really want to write it down? Which I did, and I kept it for myself. I didn't want to publish it in the end, but I also thought to myself, if I don't go back to school, just because I had my own experience, if I don't have something backing up what I'm doing, if I don't have that experience and that empirical knowledge, then people really aren't going to look at me as someone who is an expert in this field.
Mhm.
So that is when I decided that I'm going to go back to school, and I am going to, get a degree specifically for this so that I can do this. And I feel very fortunate that I did, because I feel like in a way, this has been my mission. I just didn't realize it till a little later in my life.
Mhm.
Um, but I really do love what I do very much. I love meeting the people. I love helping people. It's been eye-opening and amazing to just have these conversations with people and help them a little bit.
Wow. So when you, after your eating disorder and then when you like got older and started your own business, was there ever a thought in your head that you wanted to sort of be an advocate or help people who were struggling, or you kind of like pushed it out of your head like professionally?
I definitely pushed it out of my head for a lot of years. I think when you recover, um, sometimes you're kind of ready to jump in that realm and help people, and sometimes you kind of need time away from it.
Mhm.
And for me, I just walked away from it, and I didn't really want to revisit it. But like I said, just those experiences of watching people and their struggle, I felt like Hashem almost was calling to me, like, now it's time to go back and figure out what happened and see what you can use that in a constructive way for.
Right. That makes sense because, like, yeah, some people who had actually struggled with the diagnosed eating disorder and went through recovery and everything, they kind of like it's there and it made a difference in their life. And many people are so much stronger after, but they just kind of want to like put that aside in their life and maybe one day revisit it and maybe one day not. Just like, but was it triggering for you to work in the clothing store and hear those comments?
Yes, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, when it's something that you struggle with, the struggle is there. It's just how you respond and what coping skills and mechanisms you develop over the years, that you've put in place so that it won't be something that becomes a problem for you. So sure, I think anybody who's had a struggle like that, or anxiety, even depression, OCD, things might trigger you. But if you have those skills in place, then you might have bad days, but for the
Hmm.
most part, you're okay. You get through it. You get through it.
Yeah,
There were
yeah,
there were days, but Baruch
yeah.
Hashem, it was okay.
Yeah. Okay. So you went back to school, and then okay. So before Atmi, what were you? Is Atmi what, like, your full time job now, or?
Well, it is very full time, but also, like I said, I do a lot of support for parents of kids with eating disorders, speaking on body image issues. So I do a lot of kind of one-on-one consultations with people,
Mhm.
even talking to parents about their role as an advocate for their child with an eating disorder. I don't treat eating disorders. I do get a lot of people asking me about that, but sometimes parents just call me for direction. Like, I think my child has an issue. What are my steps? Like, what should I do? And does this sound like an issue to you? So I do talk a lot with people about eating disorders, but yes, I meet with schools. I train them in the curriculum, and we do. Part of what I believe very strongly in is that while the curriculum for the girls is extremely important and vital, parents and teachers also have to have workshops as well, because they are the primary influence in the girls' lives. So if we don't give them the tools, if we don't give them ways to talk about the girls, or even understandings of how the girls' body image is created, for
Mhm.
parents, more what we can do to help our daughters cultivate that more positive body image, but for teachers also to create healthy classroom dynamics where we don't experience weight bias, we're not tolerant of any weight bullying, things we shouldn't say or do or model in our classrooms. So we also provide workshops for parents and teachers as well. So it's kind of like a full offering. So that is mostly, yes, my full-time job.
That is so important. I know that I've had some schools reach out to me to talk to the girls, and I'm like, it really starts with the parents. It really just does, and the teachers for sure. So could you just explain? I guess just explain to me the difference between this. I guess there's like two branches of your. Is it your business, or is it like your? Tell me more. Like you said, you're a parent, like teaching the parents, but you're also started this organization. Are they together? Are they combined?
Yes. Yeah. So the ATSME is the whole approach of ATSME is three-pronged. So we have the curriculum for the students, the workshop. It's a one hour workshop for the parents, and then a 1 hour workshop for the teachers as well. And that's all part of the umbrella of what ATSME provides. Me personally, on my own, will do the consultations for parents and support for parents with eating disorders, and sometimes just kind of help in navigating, finding the right therapist or medical doctor or teams of people, because as you know, it really takes a village. When someone
Mhm.
has an eating disorder, you need dietitians and you need doctors and you need mental health professionals. You need everybody, even recovery coaches sometimes. So
Yeah.
um, sometimes just helping them put that together.
And do you think that because you have like that business background, that's how you like it's not so easy to start an organization and to start a business. So is that how you were able to get it off the ground?
I think that was helpful. I don't know why. One day just came after I finished. It wasn't my that wasn't my intention from the beginning. I really just wanted to know how I was going to work in prevention, and I thought maybe I'd work with some of the Jewish organizations that work with eating disorder referrals and things like that. And I don't know. I did a lot of research. I was training in all these things, and it just hit me. If I want to make a change, if I want things to be different, I'm going to have to be the change, right? So I just decided one day that I want to make this nonprofit, and I want this to be available to all the schools, and I don't want it to be out of the realm of price for them. Really, we offer the curriculum at only a charge of $10, between 10 and 20 per child, based on the cost of materials. That's it. We don't charge them for anything else. I don't charge for my time in speaking. I want every child to have access to this, and I want every parent and every teacher to have access to it. So that's why I wanted to start it as a nonprofit, so that we could get donations and we could get people involved. And honestly, Baruch Hashem, I've had so many people reach out and say, how can I help? How can I get involved? This is so important. This is something that I really, can connect with. So I was very fortunate that there is a really generous man here in Michigan who helped me get all the paperwork together for no money. He was extremely generous. He said he does that for Jewish organizations. And Baruch Hashem, it just kind of fell into place. I can't say that it was my intent, but that's kind of what happened.
Yeah. Wow. Mikam plays role that people really do want to help. That's really amazing.
They do. They really, really do.
Yeah, that's amazing. So how long has Atzvi been around?
It's been almost 2 years. And it took almost a year. It took about 9 months or so to build the curriculum the way I wanted it. I had to find the right curriculum writers, and we had to test the curriculum, and we had to make sure that we were using the right methods and that we were doing the right things. So we wrote the curriculum, then we tested it here locally in Michigan. And this is the first school year that we've offered it to the schools. It's not easy to get new curriculum and things in the from schools. I was very fortunate that I was able to get approbation or haskama from the local Rav here, who is the head of our kollel, Harav Shmuel Irons. He's a very big name. And so once we have gotten haskama, and we have been getting into more and more schools. I have a lot of schools who want to start it for next year. And yeah, thank God, it's really been growing. It's really, really been growing.
So you created the curriculum, and then you had to sell it to schools, or you're saying you give it to the schools for free? Because
just the cost, like I said, of the
material.
We offer every class gets a beautiful journal. The journal has some of the concepts that we're learning in there. They have inspirational quotes, and it has places for their exercises. So it's kind of theirs to keep. And so we just ask them to pay for the cost of the journal or any supplies. There are a couple exercises that we do with the girls that require supplies. So this year, because of our sponsors, we've been able to keep it to $10 per child, which has been, very doable for every school. Hopefully down the road, maybe people will start to sponsor the journals completely, and it won't be any cost at all. But yeah, Baruch Hashem, we've been able to keep the cost very, very, very minimal.
So you basically right now you're trying to get it into the schools. You're not the one giving the curriculum. You're just giving them the physical curriculum, and their teachers are teaching it.
I prefer the social worker of the school to give it to them. It could be a teacher. It has to be someone who has a different kind of relationship with the girls. It's not about it being a class as much as it's a conversation and a workshop and something we're going to work on and learn together. Yes, we provide the training. I have videos that I provide for them, so that the school, first of all, because it's 4 sessions, each one for each grade that we do, 8th, 10th, and 12th. This way, no one has to travel in for it. It can be done in-house, and every year when they have a new class, they can do it there. But also the social worker has a different type of rapport with the girls than a teacher does. And I need them to have that comfort level with the person that is giving it. And they have to be comfortable with the concepts that we're talking about as well. So generally, the social worker is a perfect person to do it. I have had teachers also in the school give it who are not that grade's teacher. It kind of needs to be a person who isn't their regular person, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. That makes perfect sense. And why did you pick those grades, 8th, 10th, and 12th?
So really the research shows that 10th is like one of the most perfect years to implement, changes specifically for appearance, ideal, and body image. So the studies also show that girls until about the age of 11 are really very primarily influenced by their parents. And so it's really more of a parent's job to kind of solidify that positive body image and help them until that age. Once you hit 11 or 12, the peers become very central in the child's life, right? So 8th grade is kind of that really first big heavy peer year. So it's a great year to kind of talk to them about other ways to think about their bodies with each other. And we talk about just also, it's really important in that year, we kind of want them to appreciate their unique selves. We talk about, if you have it, you need it. If you need it, you have it. Hashem created you perfectly as you are, and you have what you need. Because sometimes our girls struggle with being different. If their skills are different or their interests are different, that can be, a stressor for them. So we start that in the 8th grade, and then the 10th, we go hard and heavy into the appearance, ideal, and body image, because that's what the research shows. And we do 12th because this is a really difficult time for girls. What we're hearing a lot, especially in the shidduch world, is that sometimes the girls don't feel completely prepared. They haven't really thought about what it is they're looking for. Seminary is the first year away from home. They need new skills that they haven't had before. So we talk to them about some other types of concepts besides emotion regulation and their appearance, ideal, and body image. But we also talk a lot about priorities and boundaries and self-care and healthy relationships and what those look like, to just kind of give them some skills moving forward away out of their parents' homes, for the first time, many of them. So that's kind of why we did 12th grade as well.
That is so, so amazing on so many levels.
Yeah.
I'm relating to a lot of it when you said like 8th grade, 11-year-old primarily influences their parents. I really do talk about that with my clients' parents a lot, because, like when, like you said before, like weight bullying, right? So I always say to parents, like, it always hurts when you're insulted, whether it's about your weight or anything, right? People can make fun of people who wear glasses or have braces or anything. I always say it always hurts, but like when you have that confidence, whether it's body confidence or any confidence from your parents, that you not like the confidence that your parents always compliment you about everything, just like that confidence that you are good and you are beautiful and you are strong and you have your own uniqueness. It always hurts, but like it just doesn't penetrate as much when you have that like shield almost around you. So it's like so important for like the moms that I work with the younger kids and the teenagers. Like this is like their formative years. Like it's not so much about like screaming at the bully who is bullying, although yes, we do have to do some work on that, but it's more about like exactly what you said, prevention and building them up and giving them skills and remembering that we're so much more than the way our body looks, and we didn't do anything for the way our body looks, and diet culture, like all those voices. So it's like it's totally that, continuum of prevention, like you said, 8th grade, 10th grade. And my own disordered eating started between like that age, between like 9th, 10th, 11th grade, so like to have that in high school is like, it's like so important.
And really continuing on what you said, I think the parents, I agree with you, because you can't control as a parent what your child will come into contact with outside your home.
Right.
But if you give them that sense of self-esteem, self-compassion, ways of dealing with their emotions, we talk about the concept of kind of like an emotional bank account, if you will. When we deposit and we talk to ourselves in a certain way, and we use the practice of self-compassion, then when we have stressors, which are normal and expected and just a regular part of life, we can take a withdrawal from our bank account without it actually going into overdraft, right? We're not going to be in a zero balance or a negative balance. And that's why it's so important to talk about these things with them, and give them those skills. Parents can only be with their kids, like you said, part of the time. So the best we can do is give them those skills to withstand some of the negative things that they might hear.
Right. Totally. Yeah. I probably said this like 100 times on the podcast at this point, but a few things just to go onto that point is that, first of all, one second, I just lost my train of thought because I was thinking, I always say this on the podcast.
I hear that. I do it all the time.
Yeah. Okay. We were talking about giving our kids. Sorry, I'm trying to think. I was just talking about talking to my daughter about this. Okay. Anyways, it will come to me.
Yeah.
So, okay. So another question that I was going to ask you is, did you ever consider doing younger grades, younger than 8th grade?
That's a great question. I really do get that a lot, I'll be honest with you. So, once this curriculum is really up and running, there are two things that I'd love to do. One is I want to do boys. A lot of people will say to me, why haven't you done boys? And the truth is I want to do them, but I really spent so many years understanding girls' issues. I want to feel that strongly about what goes on with boys, because their risks and their issues are going to be different. Similarly with children who are younger, you have to be so careful how you present what you're talking to them about, the types of exercises that you do with them. And so I feel that is another thing that I'd like to do, but I'm working on doing some research into how can I best support them through these years. But again, because parents are so primary and central in their lives up until this time, when we train the parents in how they should talk to and support their children around their bodies and around food and some of these messages that they're getting, and we also talk to the younger teachers about how to create healthy classroom dynamics and how to model healthy behavior, then they're really quite supported, because this is where they're getting their primary messages. So yes, it would be helpful, but I think the most important at those ages is going to be parents and teachers.
So you're saying, so I guess, would you consider giving like coaching or workshops to the young, like the parents of younger grades? Is that what you're
I
doing? Or
always, yeah, when I do a school, I ask them to invite the parents of all
yeah,
grades.
that's amazing.
Any child will benefit, from
Yes,
the younger, truthfully, the mother hears it, the better off the child is, because
right.
you create these things from the beginning. And it's really important for me always to say, though, that no one is trying to intentionally hurt their child, Chas v'shalom.
Of course
Every
not. Yeah.
mother, every parent is doing their best, their very, very best. But we've all grown up in the same culture, right? We've all
Right.
heard the same messages. We've all,
Mhm.
experienced the same things. And we're just trying to help our child not have the same issues that we have
Mhm.
had or experienced. But sometimes we don't realize that that's exactly what we're making them experience. If we've experienced weight stigma, and we say to our child, like, you're not allowed to eat this because you're gaining weight and I don't want you to get heavy. Or
Right, right,
the stories that I've heard, a girl came home from seminary and she had gained weight, and her mother said to her, in our family we're a size 2, so when you get back to our size, I'll take you shopping.
right,
I don't think the mother meant it in a mean
right,
way. It sounds like, oh,
right,
it's so mean. I
right.
just think that they don't always have the skills. They don't understand how harmful this can be to our children.
Totally, totally. So one of the things I was going to say before is that you're not, like I always say that to moms, like you're actually not going to control your kids from hearing diet culture or weight stigma things, because you just won't. Like, you can't follow your kids around, right? So it's so important for you to welcome the conversation and say, like, if somebody says like, oh, they insulted me because they said I was fat, quote unquote fat, or um just anything that, they were talking about dieting, they were talking about, like, I've already heard this in my own home. My oldest is 10. Like, it's bad to be fat, it's good to be skinny, who's the skinniest, who's the fattest, right? So like that will happen, right? It is happening to kids even younger than 10, and that's just the way it is right now, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean like you should like say like, oh, don't say that, oh, that's mean, because you are giving subliminal messages that like that's a mean thing to say, as opposed to like welcoming the conversation and having a lot of conversations about body positivity.
Hmm.
That, like you said before about like the bank account, that like they just have like that strong understanding of what your values are. And on top of that is like, I always tell clients, like, think about things in your own parents' home, like you were saying about that woman said we're a size 2 in our house. Most of the things that are like really important to our parents, they never even told us, right? We just absorbed it. It was the messaging in the home, right? So I tell that to clients, like, you want them to have, a positive body image, but you don't have positive body image. And then I ask them, what are some messages that your parents, that are so important to your parents, and they never told you, right? And then it's like clear as day, like, oh, like I really am passing this down in my house, because like that is what's passed down to me. And of course, not intentionally, like we're all trying so hard. But if we're not honest with ourselves about what messaging we're giving over, then like it's kind of really hard to help our kids.
Very much so. And it's interesting, we have to create this intentional mindset. I think it was Wilma Rudolph. I heard this quote and I loved it. She was the first American woman to win 3 gold medals. And
Wow.
I guess there was a quote, something like, my doctor told me I would never walk again, my mother told me that I would. I believed my mother. um,
Wow. That's so
Really,
nice.
as a mother, you're the most single, I would say you're the most profound and powerful resource your child has in the world,
Yes.
especially your daughter. I just don't
Yes.
think we realize how profound our influence is. And whether it's consciously or unconsciously, we're impacting our daughter's sense of self, her values, what she chooses to prioritize in her own life every single day. So it just means that we need help with our own issues that we've all experienced, right? I always tell mothers, if you have struggles with your body image and your food and your eating, by all means get help, because you're not even doing it only for yourself, you're doing it for your children too. And it's so important.
Right. Right. I guess just to share, because I thought in my head it's very profound. Like, I actually lost my mother like almost 5 years ago, and like it was very sudden, and I didn't have like we weren't so close when I was a kid, but we became very close when I got older. And like that, it's kind of like, hopefully nobody should ever know, but it's like your roots are gone in a way. I mean, they're not, because I still live with them, but like your mother is everything. Like the mother bond is, it's not everything, of course, but it's so profoundly affects us as people. So if there's anything that we could do to strengthen that bond, and just be intentional about what we're sharing and what we, that's like the
Exactly.
biggest thing. Clients will come to me and say I'm a lost case, but help my daughter. And I'm like, you're not a lost case, because they could even see you changing, and that will make a huge difference. I think a lot of it, maybe because of diet culture, so black and white, it's like, oh, I messed up. Like you said before, it's really good to start the younger, start teaching the moms of 4-year-olds about this. But yeah, sometimes we don't. And sometimes we don't have access to it. And guess what? So many people don't even believe it. So there's so much resistance, I'm sure. And it's like, okay, once you have that clarity that this is something that you want, and this is something that you want to give over to your kids, then, you can make a change. You could apologize and move forward. And that's, I think, also modeling like really positive behavior.
And I like to also say that, small changes can make huge impacts. So it's
Mhm.
not like you're going to be perfect overnight and that everything's going to fall into place and that everyone in your
Right.
family is going to agree with how you made these changes. I really advocate for pick one or two small things that you can make a change with that are going to be doable for you, and be consistent with that. It doesn't mean you're going to, make this massive change overnight, right? And really, there always, a lot of times with mothers, we have this guilt, this tremendous guilt. Well, what have I created? I've already ruined my daughter. She's older. There's nothing I can do. But it's simply not. It's not true. I always talk about this quote from Rabbi Torsky. He talks about, ruminating about the past gets you nowhere. So kind of go ahead, learn what you can from the past, and then put it behind you. You
Mhm.
can't change the past, but you can use its lessons to improve your future, right? So
Totally.
we're just, all work doing the best that we can, and let's just keep what we learn each day. We're going to, do something new tomorrow, and that's great. That's all we have to do.
Right, right. The staying stuck in the past or being like obsessed with the future just keeps us stuck. And like if we could just, of course, we have to reflect on our past, but it doesn't have to it doesn't have to keep us stuck.
Exactly. And we can't, there's no point, there's no constructive point of blame,
Hmm.
and guilt. It doesn't, shame never serves a good purpose. Shame just makes us feel unmotivated, unworthy. We're not going to go forward.
Hmm.
And that's part of, what we talk about in some of our workshops as well, how guilt and shame don't serve a constructive purpose. But when you can use self-compassion as a practice, it actually motivates you, and you have more self-worth and self-value. So the
Totally.
more we put ourselves down, the less we want to make changes because we think we're lost causes.
Yes,
You know,
totally. I feel like I say that every day to clients.
you
Um,
sound like a therapist beyond. That's what I love about dietitians. I think people don't give them enough credit for the value that they bring to the table for every single person. It's not just about what you're eating. It's just such a culture, and I have tremendous appreciation for what it is you guys do.
Thank you. That's so sweet. It's very much tied into the intuitive eating model. Like they really cover everything. Like because when we talk about like challenging the food police, I tell clients like we're going to challenge the thoughts in your head about dieting and body image, but you can use it for anything. What
Yeah,
else have you absorbed that you don't really truly believe? So it's one of those things. Like I just feel like intuitive eating just helps in so many areas of life.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
So
Yeah.
did you or do you continue to get like resistance from these messages? Are people like, no, I have to put my child on a diet because they have to lose weight? Like, do you get resistance?
Well, most of the resistance that I get is that, but my child is heavy, the doctor said that they have to do this, we do need to make changes, um, so I can't just let them do whatever they want. But a lot of the times I'm finding that there's a lot of restricting going on in those homes because the parents really are trying to help the child, but when we enforce a lot of restrictions, certain foods we don't eat in this home, you can't eat after a certain amount, after a certain time, you're only allowed to eat this and then you're done, you're full, you had enough. The more we restrict, and the more we have weight stigma like we were talking about, actually the research shows the heavier that child or person becomes. So the
Hmm.
more we're able to kind of follow that intuitive eating model and relax around the food messages and the food that we give them, sure, there might be that adjustment period where there's a little more eating going on because we've introduced things that weren't allowed previously, but it does balance out. Most mothers really are very open. They're struggling with their own weight. So they're like, well, how do I make my child feel comfortable in their bodies, but I can't change how I am with my body, kind of like you said. And that I think is where the most difficult things come from. Also, I find a little resistance from the schools. I think sometimes they think that if they accept a program that is ultimately, helps with preventing eating disorders, it means that we have eating disorders in our school. And now people will know that that's a struggle that we have. And, A, that's not true because we're giving them a lot of skills, but B, they don't realize that they have some of them think they don't have eating disorders in their school, but they do. They do. I mean, between 9 and 12% of people will be diagnosed with an eating disorder in their lifetime. And the studies show that Jewish females have a propensity of up to 2 times more than the regular public. So that means between 18 and 24% of us will be diagnosed with an eating disorder. And that's just probably a genetic type of propensity because there are a lot of genetic risk factors in eating disorders. So pretending that it's not there doesn't make it not exist. And preventing it is so much better than dealing with it after the fact. And there's that contagion factor with eating disorders, of course. So when you get one in your class, if other people have that propensity, they're going to tend to compete and copy. That's kind of what happens.
I have like a little knot in my stomach hearing that. Like, that's so sad, like that schools. I understand. I mean, I'm not going to speak about that because I don't own a school, and I understand that there's things that they do that we don't understand, but it's just like I've heard this story so many times about the teenagers and one child, diagnosed with an eating disorder and other kids being jealous or emulating, or even though they may, when they think about it, do they even look like, do you think they look good or do they look sick? They could say, I think they,
Reinforcing his messages. Yeah.
yeah,
I think though, I really do believe that a lot of schools we have come so far in
yeah,
mental health. I think our community has grown tremendously. And most of the people that I talk to really want to do something and are noticing that changes need to be made. I just think it's going to take a little time for them to be completely comfortable with that. But I do think we are definitely going in the right direction. I have had some great feedback. We have a lot of conversations. Usually they need, a hand holding for a little bit of time. I always let people see the complete curriculum beforehand. I don't want them to feel like I'm teaching something to their students that they don't feel comfortable with, and they can make it their own. So we've had really good feedback, but again, it's a process. They have to be comfortable with the concept. And then, how are we going to implement this at our school? And what are we teaching these girls? Because everyone is so careful, right? What messages are we giving our students? That's something that's very important to everybody. So I don't want it to be like, they're not responding. They are, but I don't think we can realize truly how many kids in their school are suffering from eating disorders.
right.
We have a lot of stigma in the frum community against eating disorders. That more than other mental health illnesses, for some reason, eating disorders have a lot more stigma. Even so much so that I spoke to a therapist who told me that she had a client who, a man whose wife has a severe eating disorder, and he tells people that his wife has cancer. That's why they can't have kids, because he can't be okay with telling people that she has an eating disorder. There's just a lot of stigma. So it's a really hard thing for people to admit or get help for or acknowledge.
Wow. That's really, really sad. So are you giving this, is this being given only in schools in Michigan, or you're now like spreading it to the whole?
No, we're all over the country. I actually have places that I'm talking to in Israel and Belgium and England.
Wow.
I've had people reach out to me from Australia. So we're in talks with a lot of different places. But yeah, no, it's international right now. Yeah, thank God all the schools in Michigan have really started to do it. But they know me more personally. It's easier for them to have access. But no, we are in, I think, I don't remember the exact count, but I think we're in like 10 or 11 states now.
Wow. So if people like listen to this episode and they want to speak to you or like have this in their school, they could just reach out to you, and then like you guys could start that conversation.
Absolutely. Always happy to talk to anybody, see how I can help. If we can get that in the school, what we can do to, implement them there, whatever we can do. For sure. They can meet me personally if they like at Marcy, Marcy at ATZMI, ATZMI.org, or just go to the ATZMI.org, ATZMI.org website and fill out the contact form. Either way, they should feel free to reach out at any time.
Amazing. And that they could go to that website and donate if they want to help in that way.
That would be amazing as well. We're always looking for support and sponsors. Definitely.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so I'll get that information and I'll put it in the show notes so that people could hopefully reach out.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Of course. Is there anything else you wanted to share?
Anything else I want to share? I guess I have to say that I have met some really amazing people. So many people are so altruistic and truly wanting to help their students and their daughters. We are a community that's so open to learning new things. And even though there's a lot of discomfort from others, like I said, like we both said, because of what the culture we've grown up in, they still want to try and improve themselves. We're always willing to grow and try something new. And for that, and the generosity, like you said, of our community, I'm always very impressed with everybody that I meet and everywhere that I go. It's just been really wonderful experiences, to be honest with you. So it's been a wonderful year for me to just kind of even meet these people and have these connections and talk to people like you who every day are just changing things for our kids little by little. And I think it's so inspiring to me.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much for coming on. You really shared so many like important things, and I really hope. I mean, I'm going to try to, get in touch with some of the schools just to tell them, and I hope other people will, because like, like if we could just start with prevention and just education, people just don't know. Like we can make so many positive changes.
Yeah, actually, one more thing we did this year is we also created a training program for counselors for camps, just kind of signs and symptoms, what to look out for with your campers. If you notice a problem, how to talk to your camper, what you should be doing as a counselor, not treating the eating disorder, but how to report it and what you need to do. So if any camp, would like to, that's also a virtual training, an hour, with Q&A. So it's about 40 minutes of talking, 45 minutes, and then Q&A with the counselors. They can feel free to reach out. That's another sponsored program that we do as well.
That is so important. How many people do you know that their eating disorder started in camp while they were watching other people eat or not eat or talk about body
Right.
image? Wow. That's
Yeah.
so special.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming on, and really thank you for all
Really
that
nice
you're.
talking to you, and thank you so much for all you do, Gila. I've heard so many
Yeah.
amazing things about you, so it was really nice to meet you in person.
You're so sweet. That's so nice. And I really feel like I just want to say thank you for what you're doing for like the whole firm community, including my own, children and friends, children's and Jewish families. It's so important.
Thank you so much. I feel the
Yeah.
same for you, so thank you
Okay.
really a
Of
lot.
course. Okay. Thank you so much for coming on. Have a great day.
Thank you.